I come from an extremely musical family. I always joke that I made my Carnegie Hall debut in utero, but it's true. I was, it's true that I was there. I'm Jonathan Biss, and I'm a musician. It has been both my greatest joy and also the subject of my greatest difficulties. While I imagine that anxiety is something I was born with, it has absolutely been music and performing music that my anxiety has concentrated itself around.
I write about people in states of extremis in one way or another. I think that's probably what drew Jonathan and I together in terms of the subject matter of anxiety and depression and music. My name's Adam Haslett. I am a fiction writer and journalist and teacher.
I think one of the reasons it took me so long to identify that my anxiety was a problem, there are a number of reasons. One of them is that it is a part of any life, and it is particularly a part of a performer's life. The fact that I was nervous in concerts was in no way surprising, so I spent years sort of suspecting that the psychic toll of each concert was too great. But then I would also think, maybe everybody else goes through this too. I wouldn't say it was easy to ignore it. It was not easy to ignore it, but it was possible to ignore it, and it was simpler to ignore it. If I had to boil it down, I would say that normal nerves became anxiety, became really outright panic. Panic attacks in concerts, panic attacks leading up to concerts. When literally I couldn't continue. There was one extreme case where I quite literally didn't finish a concert, but there were lots of other occasions where there were little breakdowns in the middle, which were, not memory slips. They were something like a physical tornado happening inside me. And what I felt was shame, honestly. I felt like my job is to be able to handle this. And the fact that I can't means that I'm bad at it.
My relationship to music and writing brings in the other people in my life. So my brother, who is the basis for the character of Michael in Imagine Me Gone, was a person that introduced me to music. As we got older, I sort of came to understand it as a means of survival for him almost, because he was coping by the time he became a teenager and then later in life with a really crippling anxiety disorder. And music was an experience, a somatic experience, a channel for him to bear the experience of the world. Seeing him live in the music in that way and really then create a life around it was just a deep lesson about how you could have a relationship to other artists and sound that was perhaps the most important thing in your life. And to the extent that music is a gateway and probably the greatest gateway we have to access that realm of the spirit, right? Because it's not just emotion. I mean, it's the mind. The spirit overall is in tiny ways healing when you turn on a piece of music in your house on a daily basis. And I think for people who live and work in music, all the more so a possibility of transmogrifying experience into art and offering it to other people. It's a powerful alchemy.
There's that wonderful quote of Martha Graham. At its core, it's about how an artist has to keep the channel open to, let's say, inspiration. And I was closing the channel because I was shutting my feelings and really myself down, because that was how I could survive. I feel sad about it looking back. I don't blame myself looking back. I understand why I did it. There was no possibility of feeling creative and just generally open to new ideas, to new experiences, to new perceptivities, because I wasn't allowing myself to be myself. When you have something that you're hiding that to you feels huge, you feel scared of the audience. It's because what if they find out? And the idea that an audience is not a thing to be feared, that's amazing.
Imagine Me Gone is the most autobiographical novel that I've ever written. The father is very much based on my father, who did kill himself when I was 14. And the Michael character is very much based on my older brother, who died when he was 42. And I think when it came time to have the book published and to read to people and share it, I didn't want to hide the fullness of my relationship to the material. People were coming to Imagine Me Gone, and responses they were having were about their own experience with either mental illness or family members who suffered from anxiety and depression. And so people who were reading the book were identifying with parts of it both as family members and as people who had suffered those things. And it would have been disingenuous, I think, to not be open about my own experience.
Was there a moment that you decided to start acknowledging the anxiety, both to yourself and to others?
One day it sort of hit the point of I needed to get in a flight to go to play concert the next day. I just thought I can't get on the plane. And so there was really no way around acknowledging it at that point. It took that time and those events to make me think, you know what? There's really not anything good coming for me trying to conceal this. It's not good for me. It's not good for my relationship with music. It's not good for my relationship with my audience. And in doing so, I'm sending a message that I consider this stigma acceptable and maybe useful. And I consider it to be unacceptable and useless now that I'm a few years removed from that moment. But the other thing that was kind of incredible to me were the number of people who came out of the woodwork. People who I had known for many years, all the way to people who wrote me cold, just to say some version of, yeah, me too. It's been incredibly moving to find out that the thing which dominated my life and made me feel not just ashamed, but very alone because I was so ashamed of it, turns out everyone knows this already to be like a shared part of human experience. Anxiety, for me at least, is not crippling. Hiding my anxiety is crippling. And it's so counterintuitive in a way. Like, none of us want to spend more time with the things that hurt like hell. But what's that saying? The only way out is through. It is kind of amazing to find out that you can live through anything that you allow yourself to live through.
There is, as the Buddhists say, suffering and the suffering of suffering. And so much of the suffering of suffering is about the solitude or isolation we have while we suffer. We can't avoid suffering, but we can perhaps, in music, in literature, and the arts, alleviate some of the pressure and judgment we put on ourselves in that suffering.
I think that the biggest thing that to have come out of being open about my history with anxiety is to feel that I'm being fully honest in a way that I never was able to before. Music only addresses emotion, and I think there is a kind of a purity in that which is magical and has the power to be healing, that it is just about the only thing I know which can, if only for a while, make all of reality slip away. And that's amazing. And I hope that people utilize that kind of power. I think that's maybe the main reason that I wish for every life to have music in it. I just want people to have access to that, because that is some powerful medicine.